So I think, probably along with almost everybody else, that Robert Kirkman just blew up The Walking Dead in terms of the comic book storyline, and while he might have done it just because he wanted to do it, and he's been warning the fans for years that he was going to do it, is there another reason? Let's jump right into it. Hey YouTubers, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload. So in the Walking Dead comics, we are deep into the Commonwealth storyline, and we've gotten some pretty big surprises with this story, with Rick having to kill Dwight in order to stop the two settlements from just straight up going to war. But it turns out that that might have been in vain before this comic, when everything really starts to bubble up and Rick is forced to give a very impassioned speech where he goes against what he said several comics earlier, stating that we are not the Walking Dead. In fact, we are the living. This causes the people of the Commonwealth to take out Mayor Pamela Milton, arrest her, and kind of bring peace to everyone involved. The problem here is exactly how this installment ends. What happens to Rick after Pamela's son, Sebastian, enters his room and confronts Rick at the end of the chapter? He pulls out a gun and shoots Rick directly into the heart. We're left with Rick huddled over in pain as he asks Sebastian, "What did you do?" Look guys, I don't really cover the comic book storylines in my Walking Dead discussion videos. I think at this point, the television show, along with the comic books, they're so incredibly distant from each other that you could just focus on one. You don't really have to focus on everything. Just so many characters are different, so many situations are different. They're just taking the big pieces, the outline, the Whisperers, maybe the Commonwealth, all this other stuff. And who knows what they're going to do with that once they get done with the Whisperers, because the Commonwealth can fold into the Rick Grimes stories with the movies or just other situations. We just don't know. But this, to me, and I'm sure everyone who's read this, everyone who's starting to hear about this, and just everything involved with this storyline, the Commonwealth in the comic books, is really incredibly crazy. I mean, Robert Kirkman has told us for years that Rick Grimes was not going to survive until the end of the comics, but I don't think a lot of people thought that he was going to be dying sometime before the 200th issue of this series. Maybe a lot of people thought that Negan was going to come back and he was going to get sacrificed at some point, but Rick would die somewhere around 250, maybe 280 or something, leading this to Carl to lead to the very end of the comic book series, maybe hopefully establishing how this story was told. That whole old man Carl theory that everyone is talking about over the last couple years. So, look, I'm not entirely sure what I think about this. It's kind of crazy that within the exact same year, or at least within a year, of Rick Grimes leaving the Walking Dead television show, his character in the comic books at this point might seemingly be dead. By the next issue, Rick could be dead. Carl could be leading the group, and maybe Negan comes back at some point. Maybe we focus on Michonne and Maggie and all these other characters who are still alive and kicking. We just don't know. But I'm wondering whether or not Robert Kirkman wasn't intending to do this quickly in the comic books run. Like I said, he's been saying this for years, but we've reached a pivotal point with The Walking Dead, its ratings decline, what they're doing with Rick Grimes in the movies, and having a chance to adapt the storyline from the comics into the main show, and having to twist it around just as much as they have been in order to make it work with the characters that are still present. What if Robert Kirkman kills Rick right now and completely shakes up the entire concept of the comic book story in order to put to bed the concept that Rick Grimes has to stay alive throughout the zombie apocalypse, and that him leaving the television show is not that big of a deal? The television show can thrive without him, the comic books can thrive without him, and setting up the Rick Grimes movies, something completely wholly original to the Walking Dead universe on television, as something of the last cornerstone for Rick's character and something that the fans should get excited about. You can no longer live with Rick Grimes solely in the comic books and experience what he goes through in the stories that the television show will ultimately adapt through the characters of Daryl, Carol, Michonne, Maggie if she comes back, Negan, and anybody else that's going to be a major player in the near future for the television show. And you know what? I like this idea a whole lot. I like the idea that Robert Kirkman is using Rick Grimes' death to establish or plant his flag with this overall story that, look, Carl is still alive. I still have so many other awesome characters. I have this entire world to play with. I don't need Rick Grimes. And for anyone who really desperately needs Rick Grimes, go and watch the movies when they come out. The Walking Dead comic books, the television show, all of this stuff can survive without Rick, and we can push forward with this story. He was never that important to begin with, and it's something that we're going to just have to live with. Building hype for the future of the show, the movies, and the series, doing all wholly original things. The comic books still have Carl. They can use Carl as the leading man for this series, and I think a lot of people would love that. In fact, I would love that a lot because I feel like Carl can finally come into his own. He's not really a character anymore that we're going to see in the television show. And given the fact that the television show is already using Daryl and Carol, one character never introduced, Daryl, and then another character long since dead, not even the exact same character within the comic books, which is Carol, being the leads of the show and the ultimate survivors throughout that thing. Then the Rick Grimes movies coming out being a completely wholly original story. Every single property for The Walking Dead is going to be wholly original. And that's not even talking about the continuation of Fear the Walking Dead or this third series based around Judith's generation in the future of The Walking Dead. It seems to me that in the near future, in 2020, we're going to have so many different properties for The Walking Dead, all with their own original characters, focuses, and storylines that don't really feed off of each other and have their own level of hype. This is something that Scott Gimple's been talking about for a long time. 2020 is going to be huge. It's going to be crazy for Walking Dead fans, and this is probably why it's going to be crazy. I have to admit, I feel like this is probably one of the more cynical parts of me coming out with this idea that he is killing off Rick simply to get excitement back for all of the Walking Dead properties that are in development right now. Not just the comic books themselves, but the video games and all the television shows. One of the biggest news stories when it comes to The Walking Dead over the last couple of years is the fact that this once gigantic ratings juggernaut, which nothing else could touch, has been completely getting wrecked in the ratings over the last couple of years. And the fact of the matter is, The Walking Dead is still a ratings juggernaut. Every other scripted television show on cable has been falling, and nothing even comes close to The Walking Dead's numbers that's scripted. We're not talking about news networks or live sports or anything else like that. Maybe ceremonies for award shows or something come relatively close, but still, when it comes to the world of The Walking Dead and its sister show, Fear the Walking Dead, both of those shows are still killing it in the ratings, and it's one of the reasons why AMC is doing a third television show. And frankly, this development, this shakeup gets me even more excited about the Rick Grimes movies. As I said, if this is the case, if Rick is going to die in the next issue, if they're going to do some kind of time jump or something with Rick Grimes' character, then think about it. The Rick Grimes movies, those trilogy, the stuff, that trilogy, the thing that Scott Gimple is currently trying to develop and create, is going to be the last thing that we see from Rick Grimes, at least put onto film or in comic books or something, unless Robert Kirkman is just messing with us. This is going to build hype, and I feel like it's something that they're creating just simply to build hype for the television show, for the movies, for all of the different things that they're creating with The Walking Dead, establishing the fact that Rick Grimes, while the face of this series, is not the future of it. And as they recently said, The Walking Dead is at the beginning of its life cycle in terms of being a multi-platform media entertainment franchise, something that's going to expand beyond the comic books, the television shows, the movies, the video games, and all the merchandise that they put out for this franchise. So take from this what we will. It seems like by 2020, there won't be any Rick Grimes in anything other than the Rick Grimes movies in any type of entertainment form. Nothing really feels the same anymore just after a couple months where we have Rick Grimes being taken off the television show and dying in the comics, in every single story now having to focus on a completely new set of characters that neither story is going to have any real relation to. Finding different ways to adapt, use these characters, use these stories, and expand the universe in completely wholly original ways. That to me is amazing. I cannot wait to see what they do with this. And I gotta say, nobody was anticipating this. I wasn't, you weren't, nobody was anticipating Rick to die this soon in the comic books. But if Robert Kirkman is one thing, he is a man of surprise. Major cliffhangers with almost every single issue and nobody. And the fact that this one might be the biggest of the entire series thus far, it's going to be interesting to see where they go with it. Can they stick the landing? I'm not sure, but it's going to be really interesting. I hope everyone is having a fantastic day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload. And also, go down to the description section below. You hit that link and go follow me on Twitter, guys. We can talk about The Walking Dead. We can talk about horror franchises, the Saw franchise, Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Hellraiser, anything else that you want to talk about. Just have a general conversation or talk about anime or anything else that I cover on my other channel. I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. It's been real.